The Oscar gods will no doubt be shining down on Jessica Chastain in a few months for a brilliant and transformative performance as Tammy Faye Baker. But this movie is more than just an amazing star turn. Let's talk about The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, in theaters now and only in theaters. And it stars Andrew Garfield, Vincent D'Onofrio, Cherry Jones, and in the title role, the star of it all, Tammy Faye, played by Jessica Chastain. Before we get into the details of this movie, I do want to welcome you to Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. Please consider subscribing or liking or commenting down below about your thoughts on this film. All of that does help the channel out. Let's dive right in because I think there is no doubt that Jessica Chastain is going to get an Oscar nomination for this performance. It's already being so buzzed about. And I just said, a week or two ago, that Jennifer Hudson has some decent Oscar chances in the same category, Best Actress, for her portrayal of Aretha Franklin. But one of my big complaints of that movie is Jennifer Hudson has such a stellar voice, and it's so specific to her that I found it a little bit, that I was not quite 100% hearing Aretha Franklin when I would hear Jennifer Hudson sing. But Jessica Chastain, long one of my favorite actresses, by the way, ever since the days of Lawless and The Help, and of course Zero Dark 30, one of her first big starring roles. She just is one of the best in the biz. She is fantastic, and if anybody had doubt about that, this is the movie to finally convince them, as if they needed it for some reason at this point. But, I mean, we get a film maybe once every 5 years, 8 years, where somebody just becomes a completely different person. And that is the case here. Jessica Chastain is amazing in this role, and there's almost no hint of Chastain in it. It's almost entirely, where did Jessica Chastain go? This is Tammy Faye Baker. Now, my history with the subject matter, I am just old enough to remember the big scandals in the late 80s with them. I don't remember their rise to fame at all. They were always kind of there when I was a kid on TV, doing their show and begging for the donations and what have you. But I really remember the fallout, with what happens with the Ministry and X, Y, and Z. Again, this is kind of spoiler-free, so if you don't know the story, I'm not really going to go into the details. But this really is an amazing turn for her. She follows Tammy Faye through the decades, and the makeup gets more and more caked on, and the different wigs and the voice inflections. Tammy Faye had such a specific voice. It's, a little higher register, a little bit annoying, a little nasally, what have you. And she does it brilliantly. I mean, it's like Jessica Chastain wasn't even there, because this is Tammy Faye. So that is amazing, but look, everybody's talking about that. Let's talk about what else this movie has to offer, because I do think there's definitely going to be at least minimum one more Oscar nomination for this movie, and from what I've seen so far this year, it should definitely win it, and that is makeup and hairstyling. I mean, it's just crazy how not just her, but all of these characters really kind of become the people that they are emulating. Vincent D'Onofrio playing Jerry Falwell. I mean, that's just great. He really gets lost in it. And then Andrew Garfield, look, you can kind of tell he's Andrew Garfield, but the older version of Jim Baker, Tammy Faye's husband, really is when the makeup team, did their work and put the crow's feet in and did the hair and all of that. And they did a great job all the way around. But yes, Herculean task with Jessica Chastain with the makeup. Tammy Faye was known for her makeup. In fact, in the first scene of the movie, which is set in 1994, before we flash back to her childhood and then everything on, it's she says that my eyelashes are my my personality. Nobody wants to see me without them. And the same can be said for her crazy makeup. So Chastain gets lost in that partially because of that makeup team. But the rest of it, of course, is that great performance. But this hits, of course, all of the beats of the biopic. We always have, we start with the childhood and, okay, well, this is why she is the way she is. Her parents didn't love her and X, Y, and Z. So that's in the 50s. Then we flash quickly to the 60s where she meets Jim, and then very quickly on to the 70s and the huge success of their PTL programming and their channel and all of that. And then the bulk of the movie focuses on the late 70s to the whole 80s, where we really have the rise and the fall of this couple. Cherry Jones plays the mother. I mentioned Vincent D'Onofrio already, and yes, Andrew Garfield plays her husband, Jim. And this movie is a little bit frustrating in the sense that I think it sort of breezes past a lot of things. I don't think it is a bad movie at all. In fact, I really enjoyed it. But I think a lot of things happen in these people's lives that it just sort of, okay, here's where she gets addicted to pills. Okay, here's where this happens. Here's where that happens. And a lot of biopics do have that issue. But I think for something like this, in this day and age of all these miniseries on streamers and HBO and everything, where they're taking 6 to 8 hour looks at a figure, I think this actually could have been aided by a little bit of fleshing out of some of the stuff. Like I said, I don't think it necessarily detracts too much from the overall effectiveness of the movie, but there were a couple times when I thought to myself, well, okay, cool, we went from A to B, but I wanted a little more reasoning for how we got there. And they just don't really give us that. But one thing I was very impressed with is director Michael Showalter. Now, he is known best for his comedy, especially on television in the 90s and the 2000s with Wet Hot American Summer and The State and all of that kind of stuff. But he directed a movie called The Big Sick a few years ago, which was phenomenal. But there again, a lot of comedy. And so when I heard Michael Showalter was directing the Tammy Faye movie, I thought, okay, well, this would be sort of a campy look at this character. And boy, it really isn't. There were a couple scenes that maybe sort of bordered on that, okay, now this is kind of silly. But look, she was a larger-than-life, at times, a little bit laughable character. And in that respect, the treatment of the movie reminded me of I, Tonya, where we take a subject that could have certainly gone in a more campy way, and this movie doesn't do that. In fact, quite the opposite. It really humanizes Tammy Faye and gives you justification for a lot of things that she did in her life, and maybe we frown upon that. She died sort of as kind of a joke, but at her core, she was this little girl who loved everybody and didn't want to disappoint God and didn't want to disappoint her mother, but wanted to include people of the LGBT community in her, Christian sermons, and wanted to include people that the church sometimes doesn't. And I think it was important to hit that and kind of really see the woman behind, the makeup, so to speak. And I think the movie does an excellent job of that. And that is obviously a lot due to Chastain herself. But I think the script and the direction really sort of helped out here too. Again, the script I think could have been maybe polished up a little bit to spend an extra 5 minutes here or an extra 3 minutes there to sort of get us from point A to point B in some instances. But look, the movie's already 2 hours and 5 minutes. I don't think we needed that much more unless you were going to do a mini series on it and really just dive in. But Other than that, I think we've covered all my sort of major points here. I do try to keep these movie reviews to about 10 minutes or less these days, and we have hit that mark. So I will leave The Eyes of Tammy Faye with an A minus. Definitely one to look for at Oscar season, and it's truly, look, I loved the Jennifer Hudson, Aretha Franklin performance, but there was too much Hudson in there, and it's due to her amazing voice, so it's not a slight on her, but Chastain really not only transformed into this character, but the singing. Tammy Faye does the singing as well. And Chastain was doing her own singing as Tammy Faye. I mean, it was just phenomenal performance. But really, there's a lot more to the movie than that to enjoy. And so definitely recommended. One of my so far top 10 of the year, I would say. And that'll do it. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.